He had high hopes. He had high hopes.
Clap your hands, everybody, for Philadelphia, 76.
All right, so welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I know I have been talking about this for a little while now, so I figured I would get down to it. I've been talking about Overwatch League on the Orange Line for a while, and I've always felt like it's one of those new sports that just people may not know, may not understand quite as well. So I've brought in someone that I know who is a big fan of Overwatch League, is a big fan of the game Overwatch, and he's been on the show before. It's been a while since I've had a guest.
Yeah.
But it is my very own brother, Kevin. He, as you can see, he's Doc Holliday. So that's how I'll refer to you today.
All right, let's go.
But yeah, I have Doc Holliday with me, and we're gonna be playing some Overwatch today. And so before we actually get into playing some Overwatch, I did want to just explain some of the basis of the game. Because when you just turn it on and start watching, you may be a little confused as to what's actually happening.
It's tough to tell, especially if you don't know the game.
Yeah.
So we can look at maps first. If
Yeah.
We're just gonna go over the different types and all of the map names.
So one of the things that is needed for Overwatch is, how do you win? And the only way I can really say is you play 4 maps that all have a different game type on them, and in those 4 maps, you're trying to win the maps. Well, how do you win the maps? Well, we'll go over that. So the first type that we have is Assault. Is this in the order that they play?
No,
No.
they play Control first.
Okay, so we'll go over that first. Map number 1 for every single match of Overwatch is going to be this type of map.
Yes. So Control it's like a King of the Hill game mode. There's the center map or the center control point with each team spawning on opposite ends of the map, and you have to come in and you win. And as you control the point, a percentage meter builds up that when it gets to 100%, you get that point, and then you go to the second. So it's best of 3 for the map.
Right. So that pretty much means that the longer you're in that little control zone, you're just winning the map.
Yes.
And we'll go into things that affect that later. But that's the first kind of map. The second kind of map that you end up seeing is
the Assault maps. So they call normally 2 CP because there's 2 capture points as the attacking team.
So what he means by that is just that it's a bit like Control, except instead of both teams trying to get that point, one team is set to get the point, and the other team is set to not let them get it.
There's attackers and defenders in the Assault game mode.
And so you don't have to worry about, who's in control or anything like that, because it's all just, one team centered around that point while the other team is trying to keep them off of it. It's a bit easier to capture that point, but then that's why there's 2, so you have to capture both of them.
And after you capture the first point, you get an extra 4 minutes of time to try to capture the second point.
Yes, we should mention that all of these are time-based. So within a certain amount of time, you have
to get the objective of the map completed.
You have to do what you have to do in order to win the map, yeah. So then after Assault, we have
the Assault Escort,
which is a bit of, it's like a crossover between, it is a crossover between the Assault maps that we just talked about and another kind of map that we're getting it into called Escort.
Yes.
Escort.
This is formerly or commonly known as the hybrid game mode.
Yeah, and so the first half of it is always that capture point where, one team is still set to capture that point, and then
Yes, there's still attackers and defenders on each side. That's defined in the game's rules. And you have to unlock the payload that you have to push through a selected part of the map, a route, to the end to get 2 extra. You get a point for unlocking the payload, and then you get 2 points to complete the map.
And the way you move that payload is by staying on top of it. So it's a bit like the control and the assault, where you have to stay in this certain area, but that area is moving, and you have to stay with it in order to keep it moving.
Yes.
It's also worth mentioning that both teams get equal opportunity on both sides, so everyone will have a chance to attack and then defend.
Yes.
And if you have any time left over while you're, completing the objective that you're supposed to, that pretty much means that you get a second crack at it. And
With the remaining amount of time.
And do as much as you can, and then the enemy team would then get their turn and see if they can beat your time. So that was Assault and Escort, the hybrid map, and
the last game
one
is Escort map.
Yes, which is
just the same as the second half of the hybrid map, except your payload is just sitting out front of your attacking team's spawn door. So you can come out of spawn and initially just start pushing the payload through the map right away.
And the thing is that it's just a longer route that you have to escort it through. So
there's 3 points of escort instead of just the 2 after you unlock.
Right, and unlocking each point then awards you more time on your clock.
Yes.
So you really want to have extra time in the bank. If you want, you can start loading up a game.
Okay. Do you want like a full game, or do you want to just look at some of the maps first?
No, go into a full game.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna get him into a regular, either competitive or just a quick play game. But either way, we're gonna show off some of the characters and some of the plays and things of that nature. Because the way things get kind of broken down is from all of those maps and all of those objectives, you have certain characters. And as you can see, there's that bar on the bottom that has a whole slew of
30 total characters.
30 total characters. They all have their own different abilities and different weapon types and things like that. But they're all broken into 3 groups. And those 3 groups are tank, support, and
damage.
Did it say it said damage?
Yes.
And you'll hear one of the terms being DPS, meaning damage per second. So that just means that they're able to go out and do a lot of damage very quickly, or theoretically, I guess. But they all have their own different abilities. Some of them are able to jump around the map, like this character Winston.
Yes, this is one of the main tanks. So he provides mobility plus damage with the electric cannon here, and a shield that I can drop.
And he's one of those characters that is used a lot in the competitive play, in the composition that the players call it. He's used in GOATs.
Yes. GOATs and Dive are the 2 game modes that normally you would see a Winston player in.
And again, I'm just going to iterate what I mean by composition is just the different layout of characters that are going to be throughout the entire team. Mostly because, since they all do different things, some are better against others. That doesn't mean objectively one is outright the best character in the entire game.
They all have different uses, and they all have different abilities. So the point of the game is to find which of the characters in a 6-man team work together in a way that can benefit the team as a whole.
Absolutely. So the map that we're watching right now is Kevin is defending against the payload, so it is an escort map.
Yes.
The other team is going to try to stay around that little spaceship right there and move the point as far ahead as possible. And he's just trying to stop it.
Yes, the attacking team's trying to get to this year, yeah.
And well, the reason I mentioned that there's 3 different classes of heroes is because they all kind of serve a different purpose. And I was talking with him a little while ago about how to explain it in other sports terms, and I said it's like the 3 different main positions of soccer, where you have forward, midfield, and defense. And what did we say that we broke it down to?
Tanks I would consider the forwards because they're the ones that should be out there making the space to disrupt where the other team is trying to go, and you want to open up space so that your damage characters can come in and finish off. Like, I'll go in with initial damage to try to get the enemy team as low as I can, and then the damage characters would normally follow up to finish off any kills after I get in there first.
So a comparable play to that would be like a forward taking the ball up the wing of the field, and then at the 18 trying to cross it in for a midfielder.
Yes.
And then the last piece of the puzzle would be the supports, who are pretty much the defense. The overall idea of the game is that all the characters are fighting, so you have to eliminate the other characters. And the way you do that is you make their health bar go down. You can see Winston has his health bar on the left, showing just all the health that he has. But once that goes down, you are officially eliminated if you're, savvy to first-person shooters.
Yes.
This isn't an uncommon idea for you. But he has a lot of health, which is usually pretty good. But if it gets low, the support characters are usually the ones to boost it up.
Having a lot of health is common for the tank characters just because they're the ones that are out there taking the brunt of the damage.
Right. So we're seeing here that Doc Holliday is switching characters. When you're in that little spawn room, you are able to change what hero you would like to be. And you are
Roadhog.
Oh, he is Roadhog. You're using a skin, so I wasn't used to what he looks like. But he's using Roadhog now, which is another tank-ish player. Not even ish. Just is.
Yeah.
But so that was the way that I thought to be able to break it down in terms of what the character archetype is, because every sport has their archetype of forward, defense, and support like players and utility players and things like that. And that's kind of what all of the different characters in Overwatch kind of represent.
Yes. They're all the different positions that they should be in the map.
Yeah. I mean, you're never going to be able to, pick out a difference between like a Sean Couturier and like an Austin Matthews or something like that. I know they're not comparable players, but they both play the game differently.
Yes.
And so, a Roadhog plays, differently in a game than a Winston, and they all have their own different uses and things like that. So that's just the way I thought to explain it,
Yeah, it's a good analogy to use.
But it seems like you were able to get a pretty good defense there. They weren't able to get to the
they didn't even make
point.
the first point there, no.
Yeah.
So this was just a quick play game. So that's the end of the game there. In the competitive mode, we would line up in the same map on the opposite side to
you would get your offensive turn.
Yes, to try to push it further than they just did.
It's still good, though, because we're able to at least see one part of it. Hopefully we get a different game type.
Yeah. We can go in and see the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. We can do that as well. Seeing as you are a competitive player.
Yes, I'm I'm out there. I'm not very good.
Well,
I just
that's,
did the placements and I ended in high gold.
well, that's like, most of us when we
It's
play games. I mean,
middle of the tier for the majority of the players are in gold.
yeah, you're like on the high school varsity team, comparable to the pros.
Yes.
Yeah. See, there's always going to be some way to differentiate, and also compare to what other people would be like is actual sports. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I was trying to explain to our mother that like this is a sport and people play this and they get paid to play this.
Yeah, it's a thing that is taken pretty seriously.
And I feel like it should. I've said before that I think it's good that it pretty much gets nerds to look like, cool guy athletes,
Yeah, they get something.
Some of us are really good at stuff, but just not physically. So it gives them a chance to shine. But no, that's what I really like about Overwatch is while for what you're seeing the human actually do is just play around on a mouse and keyboard, the more interesting thing is that they are very deliberate in the movements that they do, and they have to be very precise with where they're pointing and clicking, and it's a very basic way to break down what the game actually is.
Yes.
Of just like, oh, they point and click and then tap around on a keyboard, but at the same time it's very mental in a good way of what
Yes.
they're doing. So I mean, I don't know. I always think this is really cool. It's a lot harder to play at their level than some people think, because I know a lot.
Extremely so.
I've seen a lot of people go out and say, well, we think that this being able to play a video game professionally, like what? I would have to just play that game for like a week straight and then like I could be that good. You really can't.
There's a lot of all of those players that would be in the Overwatch League have thousands upon thousands of hours played before they even got to where they're at now.
And that's the other thing is like just like a regular athlete would have to train and prepare and play, soccer for years and years and years just to get to, that major league. When you really think about it, these guys are playing video games for years and years and years, and they have to, actually prepare for it. And not just that, to be a professional athlete, you still need some level of just being better at what you're doing than
Maybe
most of the world.
It's not overall like athleticism, but the reflexes involved to play at that level is right up there with elite athletes and their reflex timing.
Well, that and hand-eye coordination and just knowing a sense of the map and where you are, what your character is and does and looks like. Some of these things, are a big factor into what could make a team really good at Overwatch. So I always think that the argument that Overwatch is, or any video game is, I can just play this for a really long time and I'd get good. It's honestly not true.
Oof. That was
Get eliminated there. You're playing as Reinhardt.
a bad engage by me right there.
Another
of the tank characters.
And more popular characters within the professional ranks.
Yes, he's in the meta right now, which would just be to say that he has some of the best gel with the other characters in this tune of the game.
So I think that's another thing that is worth mentioning because it's part of a lingo that isn't really relevant to most outdoor and mainstream sports is meta, because The neat thing about esports and Overwatch and all of these other sports specifically is that they they are constantly changing. With a video game, the developers are able to go like, oh, maybe this character is too strong. Maybe this thing is really good.
Yeah, there's balancing and issues with sometimes when they're putting the game out, there's bug fixes that they need to make. There
Right.
unintended consequences to how they affect some of the characters.
But so when they're able to make those changes, they could do something like changing how much damage an attack does, which could absolutely change whether that character is, seen as a really good character or a really bad character. Getting a big kill on, what was that, Ana?
That was the May.
May. It's still pretty difficult to
Yikes.
decipher who some characters are, at least for me, since I'm still trying to figure it out.
And it is a pretty quick moving game too, so you don't
Yeah.
get
But-
a good look at them sometimes.
But that's something that I really enjoy about commentary and what the professionals have is you're able to see how exciting some of these games can be because of how fast they move and what's actually happening. But yeah, so for meta, again, I was thinking about how to compare it, and it's like how the Eagles started doing the hurry up offense with Chip Kelly, and it was just a way of running your plays.
Yes.
So, the meta is defined in esports and gaming as what characters are good and what kind of strategies work, and that's the way I would be able to see it for Overwatch is, running a different type of offense or running the same kind of offense.
Yes, because you have the different like tanks and the different characters all have different abilities. So like
Right.
Winston, you can see that I can leap through the air and just land on top of people, and I can move myself around pretty good.
Which means that he's got good mobility, and usually mobility in what I find in most video games is a very good trait to have,
Yes.
but also it's a very powerful option within Overwatch as well.
And that's where when you say things like balance of the characters, you want to make sure that a character that can move around really quickly and get to different spots on the map easily, you wouldn't want to have too much damage to just go in and they could kill everything by themselves,
Right.
and characters can get overpowered, and then it's just not fair to play the game.
Right. So right now we're playing a hybrid map, and after a decent bit of time, you were able to capture the first point, which meant you got 2.5 minutes to escort this this payload. So hopefully you're able to do that. You're trying to get into, it seems like, the back lines, and
Yes, I'm trying to get to the back. I really want to. What my job should be here is to find the support, the healing characters for the other team, and take them out, so that the rest of the team can come in and they don't have someone that can heal up as we do damage.
so again, that's just part of the strategy of how players play the game, how the game is played from a strategic level, and it's, I don't know, it's fun. It's interesting. I love it.
Yeah.
And that's why I keep saying it is a sport that is unlike any other, which is why I love it so much. Because the thought processes that are going through this game aren't really seen quite as much in, games like baseball, where you really only have to play the game one player at a time.
Yes.
Or even like football, you have to prepare the play, but no matter as how good the play is, written up on paper, it might not end that way because of how the other team plays. But this, all of the information is coming at you at the same time, and you have to deal with it all at the same time.
Yes.
So you're pushing forward. You were able to cap that first
Got
point.
The second point there. Well, first of the escort
Yeah,
points,
the
yes.
first point of the escort point. Yeah, I really just wanted to do this just to give an idea to people. Are you switching over to
Arisa here.
Arisa? This is one character that I at least haven't seen a whole lot of in competitive play, just because right now the meta game and the main strategy that most teams run is pretty much the same.
Yes.
Which isn't a bad thing. I mean, you see offenses in football, offenses and defensive in football run similar kinds of...
Some of the same stuff, yeah.
Yeah, some of the same stuff. So, I won't say that it is a good thing or a bad thing. I will just say that it is a thing. That is, what they do.
It's part of the game.
Yeah. But I don't know if anyone feels like they need any more information. I'm sure Kevin would absolutely be fine with playing more Overwatch.
Yeah.
He really likes this game. I like watching this game. But that's just like the quickest possible breakdown that I think we could do. I mean, maybe one day we could break down the differences in some of the character classes, talk about some of the players and other things that are happening within Overwatch League. Or maybe if you don't understand a different sport, we could do that. We just came back from the Wings game, and I know some people might not know all of the rules for lacrosse. So if that's needed, we could break down how lacrosse works or break down how football works. Football's a pretty confusing sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Football is definitely confusing.
Yeah. Well,
All right, so we got the cap in overtime.
That's great. I'm glad we were able to get that on recording. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Google Play, feel free to hop over to my YouTube channel, Dr. PhD, DOCTER space PhD, where you can find the video that goes along with this. Kevin has been playing Overwatch, and just giving a visual for what
we've been on the hybrid map Blizzard World.
Yeah, what the professional players go through.
Well,
so now
it's a lot tougher for them than it is for me.
Yeah, but now he's flipping sides, which we probably will not see either at all or a lot of, because we're ending this right now.
Okay.
But yeah, I really love it, so I just wanted to do this introduction. That's what I'll call this, the introduction to Overwatch. If you like this, please let me know. If you want more, please let me know. Feel free to go listen to the regular Orange Line podcast. I do that every Thursday. Talking about all 8 of Philadelphia's professional sports teams. That is the Philadelphia Fusion, the Overwatch League team, the Philadelphia Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Seoul, Union, and the Wings are also a part of that.
The only 8 for 8 podcast in the city.
The only 8 for 8 podcast. It is by fans, for fans. So it's no over-the-top analytical stuff that you sometimes see from some of the bigger names out there. This is just people talking about things that they like. Yeah. And if you're a fan of professional wrestling, something that I really like, every Friday I do a new podcast that I call the Half Hour of Power, PWR, Pro Wrestling Review. I will be talking about all things professional wrestling for a while, which is...
we got a big weekend for wrestling. Yeah,
exactly. It's awesome. It's WrestleMania weekend, so tomorrow on Sunday we'll be getting down to some wrestling, some great wrestling.
Yeah.
And
The great granddaddy of them all. You're not supposed to say that anymore.
yeah, I know. They don't want it to seem old. But you can catch that one on Friday. After pay-per-views, I'm going to do a full hour of Power so I can break down the weekend as it goes on, and then talk about some of the bigger stories that happened throughout the week on Raw, SmackDown, things like that. It should be a fun time. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Dr. PhD, spelled the same way as I have already spelled out. I don't know if you want to say your name.
Kevin Haley, Doc Holiday, yeah. Dr. Holiday. Doc Holiday, 234 on Xbox. Hit me up.
Yeah, hit him up. He's on Twitter sometimes too.
Sometimes.
But if you want to follow the Orange Line, you can do that. That's going to be at Orange Line Pod, spelled exactly the way you would think. Nothing stupid this time. But this has been Dr. PhD here for Overwatch League with Doc Holiday. I hope you have a good day. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you around.